Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Today we are going to look at designing a better spreadsheet, and I have written the rules here. So there are several rules. The first one, they are written in no particular order. So the first one is choose a good font. For professional font you can consider using Arial, Calibri and Cambry. 2, don't use a light font on a light background. So always use a dark background and a light font, or vice versa. Alright, so here is an example. You can see the background here and the font, the text font. Turning off the grid lines. Right, so on the view tab, here is the grid line. You can decide to turn it on or turn it off. Alright, so what happens is that when you turn it off, it makes your spreadsheet look more professional. Alright, so use navigation button to jump from one spreadsheet to the other. Okay, here's an example of what I mean. You can see this menu icon here. When I click on it, it's going to get me to this tab. So this is the data validation tab, and with this I can also jump back to the how to use tab, and you can see the screen tip there. Alright, so here is the how to use tab. So this is good for jumping from one spreadsheet to the other, and I will also show you how to create this. Alright, so the fifth one is protect your worksheet. This helps you to minimize errors. So if you are designing a spreadsheet that you share for people to use, the best thing to do is to try to protect that worksheet so that people don't misuse it or enter data that you don't want them to enter. The same thing happens to the data validation. Alright, so you could also use data validation to determine the type of data people will enter in a spreadsheet that you are sharing with them. We are going to see how to use all these things. The seventh one is to use named ranges in your worksheet. This will help you whenever you come back to that worksheet, you have an idea of what you did there because the name is showing. Alright, so guys, we're going to learn how to create this navigation button. Alright, so this can help you to jump from one spreadsheet to the other. To create this, all you need to do is go to your insert tab and choose icon. You can see that we are on the illustration group, so I'm going to choose icon. So do make sure that you are connected to the internet, because that is the only way this can load. Right, so it's loading. Now we have images, we have a lot of things, but because we have clicked on icon the first time, so we're going to meet this at the icon tab. So we can now choose the icon we are looking for. Now this is a menu icon, so I'm going to type menu. Alright, so this is exactly what we have here. Can also choose other ones. If you're talking about food, you can also choose this, right? Food menu. So I'm going to click on this to select this, and I will insert. Right, it's loading. So here is where it is. I'm going to drag it out here. So now that you have this, you can now resize it and place it wherever you want to place it on your workbook, right, or worksheet. So on this, we're going to right click to link it. So what we need to do now is to link it to any tab. So this time around, I'm going to link it to the basic logic tab. Alright, so let's choose link. So we have the hyper insert window open, so we're going to insert our hyperlink. We have three options here: link to an existing web page, file web page. You have place in this document, so we're going to link it in a place in this document that is open. You can also link to an email address. Alright, so you see sometimes when people share a workbook with you, maybe they are going to leave their YouTube name. Once you click on that, their YouTube name or their picture, it's going to take you somewhere else. So this is where they come to link that text or image or icon. Alright, so we're going to link it to a place in this workbook this time around. If you are linking to an external website, you are going to choose this. If you are linking to an external file, you are going to choose this option. You are going to choose the second one, and here we have to display text. So since we are linking it to our basic logic tab, our display text is going to be basic logic or our screen tip. So screen tip is always what shows when someone is on that icon. So we're going to write basic logic, basic logical. Right. So now that we have done that, we are going to come here to look for basic logic, and this is this. So we're going to select this. Now the type the cell reference means that when we click on this, where our icon stay, or where our cell selection stay in that worksheet that we have selected. So we are going to see that in a brief. Alright, so let me click this. Okay, now click out. When I come here, you will see this basic logic. So this means that when I click on this, I am on the basic logic tab now. We might also want to, when we are on this basic logic tab, we want to click back. We want to drop an icon here so that when we click back, we can also jump back to how to use. So you can do the same thing by copying this. I'm going to copy this, Ctrl C. I already have this here, so I'm going to go back to my basic logic and Ctrl V. We're going to move it wherever I want to move it in this place. Alright, so remember, I'll delete this because I don't need. This was copied with this icon, with this home icon. So I'm going to click on this and it will jump me back to the design how to use tab. Right, when I click on this, I'm going to stay on the basic logic. So what this means, you are going to organize this to suit you. Alright, the same way I created the other one, the same way I created this one was the same way I create this one. Alright, so you're going to place them where you need to use them. So alright, so we have a tab called data validation tab. This is the tab, and we have an instruction on how to use that tab. Alright, so the first, we are asked to enter number from 1000 to 999 in the order ID. Alright, so this is not supposed to be the order ID, this is supposed to be employee ID. So I'm just going to change this to employee. Alright, so the second one says the time column only takes between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So this is good for, maybe employees that come work, the time they come to work, the time they leave work. Alright, so the next one we have here is to protect the worksheet when we are done. And the fourth one is remove data validation. So these are the things you consider when you want to design a spreadsheet that works. Alright, so we are going to use this instruction to determine what we are going to have here. So I'm going to delete this because we need to start doing it again. So here is the data validation tab, and we are asked to give these employees ID, right? And we're going to start from 1000 and our maximum is going to be 9999. I am going to share this worksheet with maybe an employee or my assistant or someone else. I want them to just make sure they stick to the instruction that I've given on how to use tab, right? And I'm going to make sure that I validate these cells. Alright, so to validate this cell range, I'm going to select the entire range where I want those numbers to be entered, and I'm going to go to my data tab. Now on the data tools, we have different icons there, but the last one here in the middle, that is what we are going to be using. You could see when I'm on it, I'm going to see a screen tip that says data validation, and what it says is pick from a list of rules to limit the type of data that can be entered in a cell. Now I'm going to select this. Now we have three icons or three functions there. The first one is data validation, the second one is circle invalid data, while the last one is clear validation. The data validation is what we are going to be using. The second invalid data is if at all there is an invalid data in this range before I selected it or before I validate the cell range, it's going to highlight those invalid data with a circle, a red circle, while the last one here means that I can also clear the invalid data, right? Clear the circles. So we're going to choose the first one, which is data validation. The data validation has 3 tabs there. The first one is settings, the second one is input message, the third and the last one is error alert. The first one, which is settings, it has validation criteria, allow any value. So currently this range allows any value, means that you can enter one there, you can enter a letter, you can enter a date or anything. But when I click on this drop down arrow, I'm going to see different options of things I can do in that range. The first one there is whole number. We have decimal, we have list, we have date, time, test length, and custom. So we're going to be dealing with whole number because 1000 to 9999 are whole numbers, right? So we're going to select whole number. If you want to enter numbers that have decimal, you can choose decimal. If you want to enter a list of names, list of items, you can also choose list. A date means that that range can only contain date. Time, only time. Test length can be, words or tests that are not greater than maybe 220 letters or something like that. Right, so we're going to go with whole number. Right, here we have data in between. So we also have different options there. When you click on that drop down arrow, you can choose not between, equal to, and a whole lot of options there. All right, but we're going to stick with in between because that is what we need for this class. Here we have the minimum, the maximum. So we are going to set it at a minimum of 1000 and a maximum of 9999. Right, so this is okay. We are going to click OK. But then we have input message tab, and we already have this box checked, show input message when this cell is selected. So that means that when somebody comes to select this cell to enter a data into it, the person is going to see the message we have written here. So I'm going to call this message whole number, the title, and I can say enter numbers between 1000 or I can say enter numbers between 1000 to 999. So I'm going to type that. Alright, so that's my input message. The error alert, this is also checked. If it's not checked, you can check it. Then wherever a user enter an invalid data, what to show. Now we have stop here, but when you click on the drop down, you're going to see different options. You have warning, we have also information. So what this first one, stop, means that the person cannot be able to enter any other data or any other type of text into that cell. Alright, so that is what it means by stop. The second one is warning. It's going to warn the person, it's going to send the person a warning message, or whatever you write here is going to appear. But after warning you, you can still go ahead to enter whatever you want to enter. Alright, so it's the same thing with your information. So we're going to use stop because I don't want you to go ahead to enter any number that is not what I have specified. So we're going to write error. Yeah, that should be our title. Whenever you enter any wrong input here, you're going to get this title and the message that comes with it. So our message is going to be, so we have everything set, so we're going to click OK. Alright, so you can see that once I select this cell, I'm going to see that input message, enter number between this and this. Alright, so we're going to start giving them the number one after the other. 1000, fine. 1001, right. Alright, so we can still go on to continue writing this one after the other, but this is not the easiest way to do this. So I'm going to show you an easier way to do this. Right, so I'm going to select this first one. I'm going to leave my cursor at that tiny green dot at the bottom left, and I'm going to right click. It has shown this arrow, right? So I'm going to drag down, drag up, release my hand. Alright, so I'm going to see this option here, and the last one is series. I'm going to click on that. Here I have the series. Alright, I'm going to choose row. So what this means is that I'm going to fill down this column, without having to do it one after the other. So I'm going to choose column. My step value is going to be 1 because this number are increasing by 1. 1001, 1002, 1003, right? So that's my step value, and I want it to stop at 9,999. But hey, my employees are not up to 9,999, so I'm going to probably enter from 1,000 to maybe 1,013 or something. So I'm going to say 1,013. Is that it? So you can see that I'll fill this, automatically without having to write it one after the other. Now, what happens is, if I want to enter a number that is greater than 9,999, I'm going to have an error. So let's say I want to change this to 10,000. You could see this message showing me that this cell can only contain numbers between 1,000 to 9,999. So we try. Alright, so it doesn't allow me to enter anything, so I'm going to either leave it at what I had there. I'm going to change it back to, so I'm going to say 1002. Alright, also the same thing will happen if I want to enter below 1000. I'm also going to get that message, right? So let's change it back to the previous number. So I can just undo. Let's cancel this. We're going to undo. Alright, so that is it on how to validate cells. Alright, so if I give this instruction and I'm sharing this workbook with somebody to fill up this data, the person must have to go with my validation without having to impute any other number or figure there. Alright, so here we also have time. I will delete this to also demonstrate how to validate time. Alright, so I'm going to select this. Remember, if you want to validate any cell, always select that cell first. Then you go to your data tab. Here is my data validation tool. I'm going to click on this. Now this time around, I'm going to demonstrate how to use this second one. So I'm going to enter a number here that is not what I specified. So let's say we have 7 a.m. here. So now we already have this number in this place before I selected this range. Alright, so I'm going to select this range now. Now go to my data validation, and this time around I'm going to choose time. Right, so I still leave it at between because I'm going to specify two numbers. So I'm going to say between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm going to choose that. Right, so let me enter 8 a.m. here. Let me enter 5 p.m. Okay, let's go with the first one I'm trying to do. 5 a.m. You can see I'm having this. Now this is a default error alert by Excel. Remember that we didn't try to impute our input message and also write our error alerts now, but this is a default one by Microsoft Excel. So it's saying this value does not match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. Alright, so I'm going to retry that again. So let me enter my 5 p.m. Alright, now the 7 a.m. we have here is an invalid data, but it is here because it was there before I validated this cell range. Alright, so we are going to find out if there are invalid data in this table To do that, we are going to just go to our data validation and choose circle invalid data. You can see that it has highlighted it with this red circle for us. So we can now choose to correct it, to correct that. Alright, so once you corrected it, the thing left. But if the invalid data is okay by you, you don't want to correct the figure or the type of data there, you can also come here to clear that circle. Alright, so this is how to validate cell range in Excel. Right, so we're going to also learn how to use lists. So now we have considered how to use whole number, we have considered how to use time. Now we're going to consider how to use lists. Right, so here I have the small table. So here I have this small table, and you can see the food item, bread, cassava, and so on. The category, I've written it out here. Alright, remember we're always working with smaller data. Showing this example, in real time we're going to have bigger data to work with, right? So we have this category listed out here, but I want you to be able to enter this category in this cell range without having to type in your own by yourself, but just enter the specific text I want you to enter there. Alright, so I'm going to select the cell range where I want to validate, right? And I'll go to my data, choose. Now this time around I'm going to choose list, because this is a list, right? So I'm going to choose the source. Now I can come here and select this is my source, right? But this time around I want to show you how to use named ranges in data validation. To give them a name, I'm going to select the entire category. Then I'm going to come to my name box. I give it a name to say category. Alright, so now that I've given this a name, I'll come to the cells that I want to validate. I will highlight them and go to my data tools, right, under my data tab, and choose validation. This time around we are going to choose list, and our source is supposed to be this, right? So instead of highlighting this, I'm going to go to the formula tab and choose use in formula. So what this does is going to give me the list of named ranges I have in this worksheet, and the only name range I have is the category. So I'm going to select this, right? But we are going to be using the default error alert by Microsoft Excel. So when I click OK, you can also see I have that drop down showing. So bread is supposed to be bakery and so on. Hope. So beans is protein, rice is grains, and we have the last one, vegetable. Now let's come to a more fantastic way of working with data validation. Let's say we have new food item to add here. The food item this time around might be a drink. So let's say it's Pepsi this time around. So I'm going to click enter. Also the category is supposed to be drink, right? You can type in drink here, but then we want to automate this so that the drop down will also contain drink. So wherever in this data set, remember we are imagining that our data set is big, alright? So wherever in this data set, we should always have drink showing in the drop down, so we don't manually have to type in drink here. Well, we can do that because our data set is just this one and Pepsi is just one, right? So what if there are other products here, other Pepsi products like 7-Up and so on in this list? do we always want to type in drink, drink, drink? Why don't we do this so that it automates on its own? Now to do that, we have to enter this in a table, or we can also enter this in a table. But since we have used named ranges, all we need to do is type in our drink here. Right, now go to our named ranges. So here we have the formula tab, and here we have the define name group. So we're going to expand the category to contain drink this time around. So here's the category, we are going to edit it, and this time around we are going to move it down to row 11. So click OK, close. So when we come here and highlight category, you can see that it covers this, and when we click on this, you can see our drink also shows. We can now copy this to this cell, to copy the validation to this cell. So to copy, all you need to do is Ctrl C, copy what you have here, Ctrl C, come here, select this, and click on your keyboard Ctrl Alt V. So when you do that, it's going to open this paste special window, and you choose validation. So what we are going to paste this time around in this cell is the validation, and not just your normal copy and paste of text. Alright, so we're going to paste validation. Alright, now that we have done that, you can see that drop down here. Alright, already showing Pepsi's drink is there. Alright, now what happens whenever we enter another food item in this column? This table expands to accommodate the data and also the validation. So here is what I mean. If I'm entering another type of drink, say Chivita, so you can see that my table has expanded, and also the drop down has also expanded, so I can now click my drink. So take note of this whenever you are trying to work with data validation. It's best to put the entire data in a table so that it auto expands, and you can also consider putting this in a table too, so that whenever you enter another category, it also expands on its own. Now the last way to delete, if you don't remember the shortcut of copy and paste, you can go to the cell that has the validation, you select it. This time around I'm going to select this, and then we go to our data tab, go back to your validation, click your validation, and instead of allowing whole number this time around, you are going to choose any value. Right, so I can also say apply to all cells that has the same settings. Right, so you can click OK. Now you can see that when you come out, I cannot enter below 500 here. Now this screen tip is still showing because we did not turn it off in our data validation window. So I'm going to go back there and turn it off. Alright, so now that we have entered the data into these tables, we are supposed to protect it so that someone don't come and tamper with the data set we have there. To protect the worksheet, what we are going to do is, on our review tab, we have this protect group. We are going to choose protect, and we are going to enter our keyboard, and we are going to enter our password. So I'm going to enter my password right now. Second time to verify that your password is correct. Remember, password are case sensitive. Remember, password are case sensitive. So remember the case that you are using. If you used uppercase, you must use uppercase. Right, so now when someone wants to change our values, they the person is going to get this message. This cell or chart you're trying to change is on a protected sheet, so someone cannot make any changes here again. Alright. We can protect an entire worksheet. We can also allow people to edit a particular range or certain ranges in our worksheet. To do this, first we are going to unprotect this worksheet. Alright. I'm having case sensitive. Alright, so I have unprotected this worksheet now. So I want people to be able to, I want certain person to be able to edit this arrays. So I'm going to hold down the control key on my keyboard. Alright, now if I want certain people to be able to edit, this table, I am going to use this option we have here. Also on the review tab you have this protect group, and you also have this allow edit range. So I'm going to allow certain people to be able to edit this range, but that is, those people will have password. You can see the screen tip saying edit range, set up password protection or ranges, and choose people who can edit those ranges. Right, so this is also a nice way to protect your worksheet, so that only people with experience can be able to edit those ranges. Now we don't have any range here. We're going to create a new one. We're going to give it a name. I can call this the employee. But since we have two ranges, we have two ranges here. We have this first one and the second one, so we can't really call them a particular name. Alright, let's just say employee underscore category. So let's say employee ID underscore category, and these ranges have been selected. Then we can input our password. I have the option to re-enter my password, so I'm going to click OK. Now you can see I can still make changes on this data set, but once I protect this worksheet, so let me protect it. I'm going to enter my password again to double check. My password is not identical. Okay. Alright, now you see I'm not able to make any change in this worksheet, but once I am on this data set, or these ranges that I have allowed to be edited, once you have the password. So let's say I want to change this figure here. You can see this window showing up, unlock range. A cell you are trying to change is password protected. Enter the password to change the cell. So if I have access to this password, I'm going to be able to edit only this range, only this data set, and not anywhere within this worksheet. So I'm going to enter my password. Now you can see I am able to edit this. I cannot actually write within those cells. Now the next thing we're going to do is to clear validation. if you have a worksheet that you don't know if there are, you don't know the number of cells or how many ranges contains data validation, what you have to do is go to your home tab. You have this find and select on the editing group. Once you click on it, go down to data validation. So when I click on that, you can see that the cells that contain data validation, they have been highlighted. All right, so you can now decide to clear them, or you can also start working with them. So I'm going to clear the shortcut, so Ctrl C. Now note that I selected the cell range that is equal to this. All right, so I'm going to also select this. Then on my keyboard, I'm going to click Ctrl Alt V. So Ctrl plus Hot key on your keyboard plus V. Paste special, dialog, and you choose validation. So once you click OK, you will see that this validation will disappear. You can no longer see that drop down showing here.